Yes, sir, and a very good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. Thank you very much for joining us on this, the 27th day of October, 2019, for today's edition of Sundays with George Grant. I'm he. Pilgrims, I certainly hope that your long weekend, well, not for everybody because some people had to work yesterday, but certainly hope that the weekend's been going pretty good so far for you. I enjoyed having Friday off. Thank you so much for the break. And yesterday, spent the entire day putting together this morning's program, which I do hope will be very enlightening for you. As I read the rundown, you listen carefully to what's coming your way, and just want to remind you that if you can't make it for the entire 3 hours this morning, be at peace. It's going to be up on the website. It's going to be up on Facebook. It's going to be up on YouTube. It's going to be up on GrenadaBroadcast.com. Go back at your leisure. Check it out. So, before I get into the rundown, let me also take a look around here and see what's going on. Ha, ha, ha. We have a new winner this morning, Anthea Rullo, and I'm assuming she's in Decatur, Georgia. Thank you very much, Anthea, for joining us, and congratulations. I know you've been working pretty hard, but those other folks out there like Hazel Ferguson with sticky little fingers usually beat you, but not this morning. Top of the line, girl. Thanks. Congrats. Let's see here. Second this morning was Mosquito Man. He's saying good morning to you guys. Ernesto is saying good morning. Ernesto is kind of early this morning. Good to see you. Abraham Joseph is also saying good morning, and so is Fitzroy Adams. Jennifer Myers says good morning to you, George, and all our listeners. Happy Sunday. Raining here in New York today. Weather is beautiful. It's raining and the weather is beautiful. Well, just wait. Let me tell you. Mags was here for 2 or 3 days, and she is leaving this afternoon to head back up to New York. So wait until she finds out that she's going back to a city of rain. Because I'll tell you, she's been enjoying the weather down here. Yes, I think we're all complaining it's a little bit on the warm side. Let's be honest, it's hot. It's hot. But we've had nice, clear, sunny skies. Okie doke. Let's see here. So yeah, Jennifer's in Rainy City this morning. Kipling is sending his blessings to everybody. Manelli Toussaint Green is saying hi from rainy Windsor, Ontario. Hey guys, we actually sent the rain up your way. Yeah, we had some heavy showers a week or so ago. Caused some flooding and other problems, but beautiful sunshine. So enjoy the rain. Oswin Lois is watching from Brooklyn. I guess, Oswin, you forgot to tell me it's raining, yeah? Ha, ha, ha. Elton Sylvester is saying good morning, sending God's blessings to the entire worldwide audience. And looky who's here. Sean out there in the Azores. Yes, Sean, well, the weekend's not over yet, but so far, so good, man. Arthur Langine saying, good morning, Brother George, our teacher and dear friend. Well, I'm honored, Arthur. Maybe one of these days, I get the feeling that you are already retired. And maybe one of these days you'll sit me down and teach me how to do some gardening like you do. Have you seen this guy's Facebook page? Always some sort of vegetable. He's really into vegetables. He grows all that stuff. And he's not here, if I'm not mistaken. He's in New York. I didn't know they grew stuff like that in New York. I thought We were the only ones here in the Caribbean blessed with that type of soil. But he's very proud of what he does. Congratulations, buddy. Okay, and Erica Mitchell is saying beautiful Sunday morning to all. Good to see Erica. Hostin J, have I seen you before? Maybe, maybe not. If I haven't, welcome, Hostin J. Davini Leo is saying good morning to all you wonderful people. And he's looking forward to another informative day. Davini, boy, I sure hope it's going to be informative. I tried. Francis Anselm says, I find it very interesting today. Morning to you, sir. Okay, I guess you're referring to the lineup, Francis. Mike McQuilkin. What musical instrument are you playing this morning, Mike? Hey? He's saying good morning. He's just about to have some juice. Well, boy, I don't have any juice, but I got a cup of cold ice water here. So that's it. Claude Putna is saying good morning and wishing everybody a happy Sunday. Grenada Sunshine is saying congratulations to Dr. Tessa Barry. Yeah, man. Aren't we proud of her? This girl has worked so hard to obtain her doctorate. It's finally happened. Let that be a lesson of what persistence can do. Congratulations, Tessa. I've been sending a lot of congrats because she's been keeping me informed on all of the developments in her field, in her area over the past few weeks. And I want to do it publicly this morning. Congratulations, Doc. Is it okay if I still call you Tess? Tess? Affectionately? Tess? But for now, good morning and congratulations, Dr. Tessa Barry. Hello, Mandu. Mandu Seals is there. And Mandu, boy, am I looking forward to Wednesday. Let me tell you what I'm talking about, folks. You might remember a few months ago, Mandu Seals and his very good friend, Ian Blakey, decided they were going to take me around the island. We were hoping to go around the island, but we didn't. We simply went up, we left St. George's, went on down to Fort Judy and then up the East Coast, made it as far as Liverpool, okay? We were taking a look at some of the indiscriminate dumping that's been taking place here in Grenada. It was pathetic. For those of you who didn't see that, just go on back into the archives. Program is up there on the site, all the sites. You can go check it out. And because we were not able to take on the West Coast on that day because the sun started going down on us, they promised me that they would get together and take me on another trip. This time we'll probably start at the north end and come on down the West Coast, okay? I'm not sure what direction we're gonna go to get there. Maybe we'll leave here and just go on up the West Coast. I don't know, we'll see. But we plan on doing that on Wednesday. And I want to say thank you so much to you, Mandu, and Ian, for the great concern you have for the beauty and salvation of our environment. You guys have done yeoman's jobs. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to Wednesday, okay? Wednesday morning, we're going to hit the road again. Okay. Denis Charles. Well, Denis is, he says Deno is here. Denis is back in New York after spending about a week down here with us. I think he went back up on Friday. It was really good to come face to face with you, Denis. A real pleasure. And we spoke to Denis on camera while he was here for this morning's program. And we're going to show you that a little later on when we get to our main feature. Anthony DeRiggs. Hello, Tony. Anthony DeRiggs, you know, he does these little vignettes, which he publishes on Facebook. And I usually air several of them, but I haven't done that for a while. Anthony, listen, man, You sent me one a couple of days ago that just had me rolling in laughter. It was good. And I'm going to try and run that, hey, maybe tomorrow morning. Maybe tomorrow morning. If not tomorrow morning, then someday during the week. It's really funny, folks. And not just funny, but informative. And it brings back a lot of memories of what, you and I were growing up. Some of the terms we used. If I say WIBS, what am I talking about? WIBS. Come on. The Windward Islands Broadcasting Service. Yaman. Gonna hear a lot of stuff. Now, Claire Antoine is saying, good morning from a sunny Birmingham. Don't ask, Brexit hasn't moved. You know something, Claire? I'm probably the only person in the world who hasn't been paying that much attention to Brexit. I think we have enough issues on our hands here. But yeah, I know it's something that's really on the minds of the British people. And I hope that becomes resolved amicably in the very near future. Arthur Langein says, thanks, Brother George, for those nice things you have said about my garden. And yes, I do take, he says he takes bride. I guess you meant pride. You take bride? You find a woman in your garden, boy? Nah, I think he meant pride. He says he takes pride in farming here in Brooklyn, New York. So now we know that he's in Brooklyn for sure. Hello, Lawrence. Lawrence Gruthoff is saying, look who's here, watching and listening. Yeah, man, you got big eyes, Lawrence. Good to see you. Still waiting to meet you. Ricey Francis is saying, good morning. Wonderful Sunday to you. School has begun. Well, let me tell you, this morning it's going to be a bit of a class because you're going to be hearing from 6 or 7 people this morning, well, more than that, but 6 or 7 people regarding the revolution. The revolution. And that, my dear friends, is a class in itself, believe me. That's what I have spent the last 10 days or so putting together. Anthony Howard is saying, good morning, George and friends. I'm looking forward to an informative show today. We'll do the best we can, Mr. Howard. Andre Celestine's also saying good morning. So, Pilgrims, my God, he spent the first 13 and a half minutes saying hi to his friends, totally forgetting about the rundown for today's program. So, let's get right into it. We will begin with the buzz, which, as always, features an opening scripture. And yes, Little Angel has chimed in this week, so you're going to be hearing her piece there as well. 2 editorials. The Grenada Advocate is captioned, in need of affordable, sustainable diets. Yeah? And the New Today is captioned, Tomfoolery and Mamagism. Tomfoolery and Mamagism. So says the New Today. No interviews per se today. No interviews. However, there are going to be there's a lot of content coming your way. And we've just put them both under the features category, okay? The first piece you're going to hear, starting at about 10 o'clock or so this morning, about 45 minutes or so, is from the Attorney General, who faced the media on Tuesday morning, I think it was, to talk about the recent child sexual abuse sentencing. Remember, that created quite an uproar here in Grenada, understandably so. You'll be hearing from Mr. Darshan Ramdhanny. He's the Attorney General. Then, our main feature is captioned, Revelations of the 1979 to 1983 Revolution. I repeat, Revelations of the 1979-1983 Revolution. Did you know? Well, did you? Here are some of the names you're going to be hearing from, my dear friends. You're going to be hearing from Mr. Ewart Layne, former vice chair of the Revolutionary Military Council. You'll be hearing from Mr. Denis Charles, who was a victim of the revolution. Dr. Terence Marryshow, first commander of the first military camp. Yeah. Livingston Nelson, a revolutionist. Michael Senator Mitchell, a revolutionist. William Joseph. Well, William wasn't, I don't know if William was involved in the revolution per se, but he's just written a book, a copy of which he, let me see if I can get my hands on this here. Copy of this book he brought to me a couple of days ago. It's the latest book on the Grenada Revolution, and it's captioned The Grenada Revolution. It says here, Answers, Legacies, and Footprints, a leadership guide to the young Grenadian. It's the next book I have to read. So yes, I have just, yes, here it is. Harry Daly. Harry Daly is a young man and was a whole lot younger when he was involved with the revolution. But this man actually escaped, from incarceration. I think we're going to begin with him telling his story this morning. Okay? So there you go, my friends. It's going to be a full morning. Now, having said that, after I run these pieces, you're not going to see any of these guys sitting here this morning. It was all videotaped. Well, not videotaped, done on my smartphone, I actually want to hear what you folks think of what you're hearing. See? I wasn't here. Many of you were. And I'm hoping that you will share your thoughts with me. Now, you'll be able to do that in two ways. Sure, right there on Facebook. Or I am actually going to open up the phone line. You can WhatsApp me at, if you're calling from outside of Grenada, it's 473-415-0633. If you're calling from just here in Grenada, 415-0631. Now, pilgrims, bear with me. I imagine that a lot of you are going to have an awful lot to say, okay? And Georgie Porgy, being the kind of guy that he is, he's going to want to try and get as many people in as is humanly possible. So please, if you're going to call, please make it brief. Collect your thoughts before you go do. Know what you want to say, condense it, shoot, okay? Don't get there and ramble for half an hour, because you know what? You'll force me to do something I don't like to do, cut people off. But you cannot be selfish and deprive others of an opportunity to share their thoughts as well. Deal? Fair enough? Come on, I think so. Let me get back here. Boy, oh boy. Andre Celestine saying good morning. Veronica Sandy saying good morning and sending her blessings to everybody. Hello, Nesta, out there in Switzerland. Good to see you, girl. Thank you very much for the greeting. Charmaine DeLille is saying good morning, and she too is sending her blessings. And Bernard Gilbert is saying good morning, everyone. All right, pilgrims. 20 minutes after the hour. Let me take a break and we'll come on back and get started with the buzz.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grandans, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's. Quality service. Affordable prices.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Coop Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and Food Fair Supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair Supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Well, I see that Mr. Peter Bishop is also on there. He hasn't chimed in and said good morning to you guys. He's playing hard to get this morning, but anyhow, he's on there. Good morning, Pedro. Good to see you. My dear friends, let we begin this week's edition of The Buzz, and we'll begin with an opening scripture. I know that this one's going to be a little bit difficult for some of you out there, but I didn't write it. Came from the Holy Scriptures, verbatim. Romans chapter 13, verses 1 to 7. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted. And those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right, and you will be commended. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid. For rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants, agents of wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of conscience. This is also why you pay taxes, for the authorities are God's servants who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue. If respect, then respect. If honor, then honor. Check it out yourselves, my friends. Romans chapter 13, verses 1 to 7. Okay, now, here she comes, little angel. Her piece this morning is captioned, "Sentencing is not the issue." Now Grenada's online webpage, dated October 19th, 2019, stated that the 24-year-old pastor who pleaded guilty to indecently assaulting a 5-year-old left Grenada after being sentenced $2,100 EC dollars. The $2,100 payment for an offense committed against a minor is not the issue. Setting up a sex registry, changing the laws, and appealing the sentence are reactions to an act that has already caused much harm and damage. Displaying outrage at what appears to be a lenient penalty for that kind of offense, particularly against a child of such a tender age, is normal, but may only do so much in curbing the practice. This matter has a lot to do with respect for self and others, recognizing and accepting human beings for who they are, not for what they can be used or abused for someone else's pleasure. It also surrounds the issue of sex and sexuality, taboo topics that are hardly discussed openly and often pushed aside and avoided. In 1989, the most complete and most widely ratified human rights treaty in history was issued, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. And in summary, here's some of it. Article 3 reads, "The best interest of the child must be a top priority in all decisions and actions that affect children." Article 19 says, "Governments must do all they can to ensure that children are protected from all forms of violence, abuse, neglect, and bad treatment by their parents or anyone else who looks after them." Article 34 says, "Governments must protect children from all forms of sexual abuse and exploitation." Article 42 says, "Governments must actively work to make sure children and adults know about the convention." How many people in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique know of the existence of the 54 articles that make up this convention? How many adults are aware of their responsibilities towards children as spelled out in the convention? And has the government of Grenada honored its commitments as indicated in Articles 19, 34, 42, and others? Too many to mention. Despite such a widely ratified treaty, children in Grenada and other parts of the world continue to be ill-treated and abused. One of the reasons is that nations continue to give lip service to this and many other conventions they claim to have signed, but they do nothing to make them real and effective. Obviously, there is a need for children to be protected. But how will they, when the guidance meant to assist in doing so is unknown and hardly ever acknowledged, let alone taught? Ratifying conventions and ignoring them is similar to passing laws and not enforcing them. It will be interesting to see whether or not any new law that comes out of this case will ever be enforced. Grenada continues to demonstrate her preference for reactions rather than proactions in attending to many issues, and will continue to learn that they are only fooling themselves. Human beings and the life they live ought to be governed by simple and acceptable norms that cannot be ignored. Among them are basic human rights, respect, integrity, and accountability. The true benefits of practicing human rights will not be known if they remain on paper. The sooner they become ingrained into the Grenadian society, the better. Signed, Little Angel. Thank you, little angel. Thank you, little angel. Let's see here. Ian Blakey is with Ian. Hey, we were talking about you just a few minutes ago. Good morning, sir. Looking forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Ryan Jabon's there. Lydia James is there. Mark Campbell, Lincoln Depredine. Let me try scrolling back here, see if anybody else. Arthur Anthony McLeish. Good morning, guys. Nice to see every one of you. And just going back here now to Facebook, Charmaine DeLille, Bernard Gilbert. Peter Bishop says, good morning. I did not say hello because I'm listening on my phone and I am at work in the element. He's at work in the element. All right, we'll find out what that element is sooner or later. John is saying good morning to you folks. Lydia James saying good morning and wishing that you folks will have a happy and blessed Sunday. Ryan Bonds checking in, saying yes, we need to protect children and women. John says in the UK, a free call line is established. It's called Childline, CHILDLINE. Yeah, I guess that's, you call that number. It's like 911 in the event that you see child abuse taking place. Lydia James says NNP is a reactive government. They're good at that. Well, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, they're having their convention today somewhere out in the Northern Parish. Okay, 9:35. Quick break here now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quick break, and then we will come on back with our editorials.
GRENADABROADCAST Community Partnership Initiative, supporting health.
To the individuals who will be using these vehicles to serve the people, please ensure while we are using these tools that we use these tools in a manner that we will all be proud of. To GRENLEC, a long-standing partner with us, a true testament of what can happen when private and public sector work together for the benefit of the people.
GRENADABROADCAST, energizing our community.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Okie dokie, folks, it's 9:38, and Ernesto says, hey, Ernesto here says, breaking news, U.S. President has just announced to the nation that the ISIS leader, al-Baghdadi, is now dead. When he used a suicide vest to kill himself during a raid on Syria last night by U.S. Special Forces. He used a suicide vest, to kill himself. Okay. If I'm missing something there, yeah, okay. Patricia Walcott is saying good morning. The Patricia Walcott? Good morning, ma'am. Nice to see you on this platform. Thanks for joining us. TF Richards. Hello, TF. Wow. We're honored, guys. Listen, TF Richards says he's listening from his truck in North Carolina. I mean, come on, guy. Talk about loyalty. Can you beat this guy? He's in his truck listening to us on a Sunday morning. We're honored, TF. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Always such a pleasure to see you. Sherry Wilson is also saying good morning to her dear class. Good morning, Sherry Wilson. Margaret Soda is saying good morning and wishing everybody a pleasant Sunday. Let me see. She says, best news ever. I guess she's talking about the ISIS leader. Lydia James says, I wish some leaders in the Caribbean could do the same. Okay, pilgrims. Ian Otway has also just joined us there on Facebook. Good morning, Mr. Otway. Nice to see you guys. My dear friends, here we go with this week's editorials. This was published on Wednesday in the Grenada Advocate. It is captioned, in need of affordable, sustainable diets. In Grenada and across the globe, World Food Day was celebrated on October 16th, with a call going out for action across sectors to make healthy and sustainable diets affordable and accessible to everyone. The Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, a specialized agency of the United Nations, which leads international efforts to defeat hunger, meanwhile noted that World Food Day 2019 calls on everyone to start thinking about what we eat. According to the FAO, and I quote, "In recent decades, we have dramatically changed our diets and eating habits as a result of globalization, urbanization, and income growth. We have moved from seasonal, mainly plant-based and fiber-rich dishes to diets that are high in refined starches, sugar, fats, salt, processed foods, meat, and other animal-sourced products. Less time is spent preparing meals at home, and consumers, especially in urban areas, increasingly rely on supermarkets, fast food outlets, street food vendors, and takeaway restaurants," unquote. Further, they say, a combination of unhealthy diets and sedentary lifestyles has sent obesity rates soaring, not only in developed countries, but also low-income countries, where hunger and obesity coexist. As we all know, an unhealthy diet is the leading risk factor for deaths from many non-communicable diseases, including cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and certain cancers. So one may then ask, what really is a healthy diet? Well, as pointed out by the FAO, I quote, "A healthy diet is one that meets the nutritional needs of individuals by providing sufficient, safe, nutritious, and diverse foods to lead an active life and reduce the risk of disease. It includes, among other things, fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, seeds, and whole grains, and foods that are low in fats, especially saturated fats, sugar, and salt," unquote. Thus, we here in Grenada should be focusing on our diets more, ensuring that our dietary habits will lead to healthy outcomes, and that the meals that we choose are both affordable and sustainable. It seems that the Ministry for Agriculture and Lands here in Grenada recognizes this, as it joined hands with the FAO this year in celebrating World Food Day, pointing out that the theme, which is "Our actions are our future healthy diets for a zero-hunger world," reminds us of the importance of healthy eating and the necessity of having sustainable programs and policies in place that would effectively work to eradicate hunger. Minister for Agriculture and Lands, Yolande Bain-Hosford, noted, and I quote, "Government continues to place emphasis on the development of the agriculture sector because we know we cannot ensure healthy diets for a zero-hunger Grenada if the agriculture sector is not thriving. I therefore challenge my technical officers, our collaborating partners, and the nation's farmers to combine efforts in addressing the issue of food and nutrition security." Now, whilst we are headed in the right direction, more must be done on the legal front, however, to better ensure more sustainable, affordable food is available now and in the future. So let us not simply let World Food Day 2019 go by in a flash, but work to put measures in place that will honor and uphold its theme. That, Pilgrims, is the editorial which appeared in this past Wednesday's edition of the Grenada Advocate. Okie doke, scroll back here just a wee bit. Ernesto says NNP convention this Sunday at McDonald's College, and NDC convention will be next Sunday to choose a new leader going forward. Yeah. Wayne Francis is saying, good morning. Good morning to you, Wayne. And Sean says, if I understand your words from the scriptures this morning, we must accept the authority of Donald Trump and all the modern day authorities. I think I shall become an atheist rather than take Boris as the one acting on behalf of God. We must accept that God is in each of us and not to challenge the word of those corrupt leaders and stay silent. Oh, sorry. We must accept that God is in each of us and not to accept the word of those corrupt leaders and stay silent is to surrender to the devil himself. I hear where you're coming from, but I don't think that's what the Holy Scriptures meant. Topic can be discussed some other time. Ryan says, half plate of green leafy veggies with olive oil, like, what? Catalo? Quarter plate snapper and quarter plate pigeon peas. Okay. Pilgrims, we're gonna, Tessa Barry has joined us. Good morning, Dr. Tessa, and congratulations. Nice to see you. We'll get to the new today in just a wee bit, but let's pay some bills first.
Hey, what? I just came from the land and this sign here caught my eye. What's that sign about?
Someone must have asked Grenlec to move a pole. But you know, there's no space reserved on the side of the road for planting poles. So Grenlec has to get permission from landowners, and that can take a lot of time.
Oh. Grenlec asked me to help them contact my neighbor Ben about planting a pole on his land. But Ben passed away. His children own the land, but they all live abroad.
That's why Grenlec needs customers to inform them in writing at least 3 months in advance.
3 months? All that?
It seems like a lot, but think about the time it will take for Grenlec to find and get permission from all of Ben's children. And sometimes moving one pole requires you to move the pole before, the one after, plus the wires that support them on the ground. That means even more landowners to find and get permission from. Then Grenlec needs to schedule their teams and notify customers about any power outages.
Well, I need the pole on the farm moved, so I'm going to write Grenlec a letter now.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That's why I shopping at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Alrighty, folks. Jean Pascal and Kathleen Thomas are now with us as well. Good to see you guys. All right, here we go with Friday's edition of The New Today, their editorial. And it says, what's captioned, Tomfoolery and Mamagism. The 2019 throne speech, as delivered earlier this month by Governor General Dame Cecile Langrenard, would best be remembered not for its content, but what was left out totally in the document by the government of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell. The New Today would like the public to be aware that the throne speech is not written by the Governor General, but is done solely by the government of the day and handed to the island's head of state to read at the ceremonial opening of Parliament. It should be noted that not one single sentence, much less a paragraph, was dedicated in the entire throne speech to the issue of oil and gas, which 19 months ago was the main plank of the election campaign of Dr. Mitchell and his ruling New National Party government. This newspaper can recall the invitation that was extended on March 11, 2012 by the NNP for all Grenadians to travel to the Pearls airstrip in St. Andrew to hear the big announcement from the Prime Minister that would shape the future of the country for the near and foreseeable future. The NNP leader announced then that oil and gas were discovered in Grenadian waters based on one well that was drilled and tested by the Russian company Global Petroleum Group, or GPG, and that the prospects were promising from other nearby wells that will soon be tested. The Prime Minister made a plea to the nation that he should be kept in the chair at the Botanical Gardens to spend the oil and gas money, and not the then Congress leader, Nazem Burke, who was the main target of the NNP election machinery for total destruction. Over the years, Dr. Mitchell and the other NNP leaders would not tell us that his regime was drawing down millions of dollars from the GPG in advance money at a time when not even one well was producing anything of a commercial nature. Top Trinidad criminal lawyer Ramesh Maharaj was also brought in by the NNP to appear on the platform in the Pearls campaign rally, to dabble in the local politics and to make a pitch for PM Mitchell to be returned by the electorate to continue his stewardship in government. The New Today is now wondering whether the so-called big news about oil and gas was nothing but tomfoolery, mamagism, and a sham by the NNP and its leader to pull wool over the eyes of the people for the election. How can oil and gas not be included in the throne speech as a critical element of the 2030 vision plan of the Prime Minister and his government? Did Dame Cecile miss out on a paragraph in the speech? specifically the one that should have focused on our oil and gas sector? Was it a mistake on her part not to say something about the oil and gas? Did Dr. Mitchell relinquish the energy portfolio to his second-in-command, Gregory Bowen, to become the fall guy in the end over the oil and gas issue that is seemingly going nowhere at this point in time? Was this done deliberately to help preserve the so-called legacy of the current Prime Minister, who seems to be preoccupied these days with his own ego and thus self-preservation? The government needs to account to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique on the status of the oil and energy sector in light of the pre-election announcement at the Perth airstrip. Is it true that GPG is financially broke, as announced by Minister Bowen some months ago, and had to turn to a Chinese company to get involved with a massive injection of funds for oil and gas exploration? If true, what is the extent of the Chinese involvement, and at what price? Are the Chinese really on board, and what precisely is their engagement at this very moment? Again, GPG signed some kind of an agreement a few months ago related to gas with the National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago, and not one single representative of the Grenada government was seen at the ceremony. Isn't this rather telling? The people of the Tri-Island state were again kept in the dark about this deal in Trinidad concerning their own natural resources that belong to them, and not any single political party in the country. The New Today is calling on the NNP administration of Prime Minister Mitchell to engage in a conversation with the people on our oil and gas business, and not for them to hear anything on the subject matter from GPG or the new Chinese investors, as announced by Mr. Bowen. This newspaper would also like to make some brief passing remarks on the Ministry of Education that is under the command of Minister of Education Emmeline Pear. The information coming from therein seems to point in the direction of an emerging crisis in the sector. The government is apparently bent on putting a number of square pegs in round holes in the Ministry of Education, where upward mobility is not based on qualification and competence, but on support for the NNP cabal and their desire to control everything in the state. There have been some recent transfers and a particular promotion within the Ministry of Education that smell of rank and victimization that in the long run will harm our nation's children and their development. Too many school principals and teachers are openly complaining about what appears to be a deliberate plan to dismantle the Ministry of Education and to put in place party loyalists in key positions. That, my dear friends, is the editorial which appeared in Friday's edition of the New Today. Okay, so here we go now, back to social media. Wayne Francis says, love GrenadaMarket.com. Yeah, they got a really good webpage going there, and they're part of our little feature here. They been a great help to us here on this platform, which we do appreciate. Lydia James says, oh, first of all, Kathleen Thomas says, I'm late today. Hey, Kathleen, better late than never. Lydia James says, that's where Beast went to hear the news. Pearl's airstrip, the boom, the booming economy. Yes, Lydia. Chester Simon saying good morning. June Noel Park saying good morning to you guys. Sean says, not dangerous to drill for oil in the waters of Grenada. Kickham Jenny. Denis Charles says, Grenada, Grenada, Grenada. Oh boy, we're in deep doo-doo. I'm not going to say what Dennis said. I'm going to say doo-doo. Yeah, Dennis, yeah. Okay, Tim Tom Ortega says, too many stupid and foolish Grenadians voted for a lie about oil and gas in the last elections, but today they're begging for help because of the high cost of living. Let's see what lie KCM will give them come the next election. We've been joined by Junior George. Hello there, Junior. How it going, boy? Good to see you. Sean says, true. John says, true, Sean. The whole island chain is a volcanic one. One drilling in the wrong place could be disaster. Okay. Pray not. Pray not. Ryan says, at present, Grenada does not produce any oil. However, a treaty signed between Grenada and Trinidad and Tobago allows for the exploration of Grenadian waters. The Global Petroleum Group and Seabird Exploration are undertaking a marine 3D seismic survey in the Grenada offshore basin, following an earlier survey that indicated that there were likely to be hydrocarbon deposits. In 2010, Grenada consumed approximately 3,000 barrels of oil per day, all of which is imported. There is no natural gas production or consumption in Grenada. Okay, Ryan, thank you. Ernesto says, the oil and gas may be in Grenada waters, but it doesn't belong to Grenadians. Ask Gregory and Mitchell. Okay. Yeah, okay, folks. Now, whew, you guys are keeping me busy this morning, eh? Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's take another quick little break here. And when we return, we will hear from Grenada's Attorney General addressing this issue, which has been all over the place in the past couple of weeks.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grand Anse, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply departments and Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Alrighty, folks, let's see here. It's coming up on 8 minutes after 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. When I came in here this morning, bright Sunday morning, but we'll go take a look while you're listening to the next piece. Coming up now, what you're about to hear is an explanation. Good morning, Terry Williamson. Good morning, Cecilia John, Raphael Joseph. Who else is there? Good to see you guys. Still sauntering. Martin Ken Lewis, Junior George. Yeah, the Attorney General addressed a matter which, boy, this thing has caused an uproar on the streets of Grenada, not just here, but overseas as well. People have been very concerned about what has been happening here. A 24-year-old pastor received what some called too lenient a sentence, or had to pay too lenient a price for being naughty with a 5-year-old child. Okay. On top of that, he left the island. I understand he's now back in the States somewhere. Okay. And because of the outcry, the Attorney General took to the press on Tuesday, and he explained that the Commissioner of Police has filed an appeal, actually, against the leniency of the sentence. $2,100. $2,100. And I think $1,600 to go to the court, and $500 to the victim. So, the press conference on Thursday lasted about 49 minutes, I think. I'm not going to be able to bring you the whole thing this morning, but I want to bring you the presentation that was made by the AG himself, Darshan Ramdhanny. So we're going to pull this up here, and you check this out.
Thank you very much, Press Sec. I'm glad to be here today once again. To all the members of the media present, good morning to you, listeners on the mainstream media and social platform. There are two main things that I wish to discuss today. As noted by the Press Sec, the first relates to the completion and readiness of the High Court facilities. The second relates to the recent sexual offense dealt with by the Magistrates Court in Grenville, and our own response to those concerns being expressed in the mainstream media and social platforms. But let's start with the court facilities. I am pleased to announce that after some considerable time that the retrofitting of the Clico building is now completed to house 4 brand new high courts with accompanying administrative offices, including facilities for the public. The building was handed over to the government as being ready for court use. Yesterday, there was a test run in one of the criminal courts dealing with real court matters. Members of the public were present. This test run revealed that a few adjustments had to be made, and those are being presently carried out. For the civil courts, furniture is right now being carried across from the temporary court facilities which were at the Parliament building, as you all may know. I am advised by the Registrar of the Supreme Court that all of the court facilities will be ready for work on Monday. I must point out here that of the 4 judges assigned to Grenada, 2 are presently off island. One is to return this month end, and the other, who is on assignment in Antigua, will return mid next month. The task before us now in relation to the court is to meaningfully tackle the backlog of cases before the high courts. Court lists are being generated, and they will advise the public of sittings in a new building, and those will be out shortly. Our chambers, the Attorney General's chambers, will continue to be ready and to provide all support as we have been doing over the years. And I'm sure the bar will be also ready, all of the stakeholders will be ready to get right back into it and to get the work of the dispensation of justice on its way. That being said, it would be remiss of me not to express our own gratitude for the support the Minister and the Ministry of Legal Affairs, my own office, has received from all stakeholders to return us to where we are. I must also express gratitude to those judges who during this last year has worked tirelessly in less than ideal and often challenging circumstances to get the job done and to ensure that cases were dealt with in the High Court. I wish to now turn to the other matter. This is the recent sexual offense dealt with by the Grenville magistrate. This is a matter which has raised considerable public concern in both the mainstream media and on social platforms. Some of the features of this case is now well known. I'm told that the offender is a 24-year-old man who is Grenadian and is living in New York. He was here visiting from the USA when he committed this offense. He caused a young 5-year-old to perform oral sex on him. When he first came before the court charged with indecent assault, he was placed on bail, and on the second occasion when the matter came again, he pleaded guilty to the offense. He was sentenced to a fine of $1,500 and to pay compensation in the sum of $600 related to expenses incurred by the family. I'm told through discussions with the learned DPP that the file is being sent across, and so we will examine that in more detail. Now, real concern was expressed by many. Some complained that an investigation of the outcome was necessary. Why should a person be given a fine for this offense? Some asked. Some called it a mere slap on the wrist. Others stated that our laws need to be revisited. In short, there was much public outcry as letters and various articles called for legislative amendments, among other action. Now, I must say right off that this is an unfortunate matter, but as with each allegation of its kind, it underscores the role each of us have to play in the fight against criminal offending and how we as leaders and civic-minded members of society must treat with such occasions when there are complaints against particular sentences dispensed by a court of law. I will confirm that there is nothing wrong with informed public criticism, which scrutinizes the correctness of a judicial ruling. Comments from leaders and right-thinking members of society, however, must be informed comments. Once this is kept in mind, then proper informed public criticism is what is expected of leaders and every right-thinking member of any democratic society. It leads to an interrogatory process. Questions are asked. Processes are adopted as a result. These are the things which can be done and would be done as a response to what one may perceive as a bad judicial decision. I wish, however, to make the point that's quite another thing in maintaining the respect for the rule of law and to instantly decry the competence of any judicial officer or ascribe their decision to personal motivation. This undermines the independence of the judiciary. People will speak. Responsible people will speak responsibly. Since this sentence was questioned, it is important to appreciate the law relating to indecent assault. When it is summarily charged, that is charged as a summary offense, the law related to indecent assault provides for a maximum penalty of 5 years imprisonment. That may be accompanied by a fine or maybe simple imprisonment. That said, the sentence in this case, on its face, raises serious questions, some of which I hope to answer for you today. Other important questions that are raised by this sentence can only be answered by our judicial system. For this reason, I am comforted that the Commissioner of Police, on the advice of the Director of Public Prosecutions, has launched an appeal against this sentence almost immediately. The Commissioner of Police and the DPP are to be commended for their swift action. The complaint on the appeal is that this sentence is manifestly inadequate. Essentially, that this was not a case for such a sentence. The complaint on the appeal really is that the exercise of discretion and the approach of the sentence was unreasonable and inappropriate. Now, this must be viewed as one proper response that leaders and right-thinking members of society can give in relation to this matter. And as far as the inadequacy of the sentence is concerned, it is now for our Court of Appeal that must answer that question. That this is an unfortunate case is no doubt, but through the appeal court we hope we will get answers, and perhaps in that process gain greater insights on the working of the justice system and how the sentencing of these types of offenses should be approached and whether they fit society's ideas of punishment and deterrence. We will have the opportunity to listen to the reasons given by the magistrate for this sentence, and we will see how these reasons are dealt with in a court of law. This is how the rule of law operates. This is how the rule of law operates in a democracy. This is how justice is dispensed. Now, I did say I was going to address other questions which have been raised by this case. Let me do that now. I know I may not address all your own concerns, but I know you will ask me questions at the end. At that time, I will answer you as best as I know how. Those that I do not answer immediately, I'm sure you can make contact with me to provide you with more detailed answers at the appropriate time. This question of the adequacy of our laws relating to the penalties is not a new one. Ever so often over the years, whenever there is a sexual offense brought before the courts, there is concern raised about the adequacy of the punishment. We will recall early in this year there was another magistrate court sentence that was questioned, and there were concerns raised about that as well. But you may all recall, especially you members of the media, that in 2012, a number of significant amendments were passed by our Parliament to, among other things, increase the penalties related to most of the sexual offenses. In fact, it's a bill entitled, it's an act entitled Act Number 29 of 2012, and it sought to amend over 61 sections in the criminal code, changing, among other things, and increasing penalties for many harm-related offenses as well as many sexual offenses. You will recall, I am sure, that those amendments were as the result of serious consultation with all stakeholders, and they were really answering the concern being raised by members of the public throughout the years and at that time. These amendments were all discussed, debated in Parliament and the Senate, and became law. Those who follow those changes will appreciate that many important aspects of the criminal law were addressed. As far as sexual offenses are concerned, you will recall, for example, that once the offense of defilement, that is unlawful carnal knowledge with a child, carried a maximum term of 10 years where the child was over the age of 13 years but below 16, and 15 years where the child was below the age of 13 years. In 2012, in answering public concern, Parliament increased those specific penalties to a maximum of 30 years imprisonment for defilement of a child under 13 years and 15 years maximum when the offense was committed against a child over 13 and less than 16. You will also recall that rape was another offense where the penalty was increased in 2012. Before 2012, rape was punishable by a maximum imprisonment of 15 years. In 2012, this was increased to a maximum of 30 years. That before 2012, indecent assault was only an indictable offense. there was no power given to the magistrate to try such an offense. Whenever an allegation was made of indecent assault, it had to be charged indictably. It had to go through a preliminary inquiry, sometimes lasting 2 years, and then it had to go to the High Court, where of course the man was pleading not guilty, for a trial. Sometimes that also lasted a year or 2 years. At that time, on trial in the High Court, indecent assault carried a maximum of 5 years imprisonment. Again, it must have been an answer to public concerns and criticisms. But in 2012, it was considered that indecent assault, having regard to the various ways in which it could be committed in terms of seriousness, from a simple touching to more serious touching, that this was an offense that for many reasons could be properly dealt with by a magistrate. In other words, there was no reason why many of these types of offenses, indecent assaults, could not be tried by a magistrate. It was recognized that if a magistrate would be given such a power, many of these offenses would be dealt with in a very expeditious manner, rather than last several years through the court process, thereby saving children and victims of having to go through the trauma of being in the courtrooms for such a lengthy period. I'm not at all suggesting that in some cases that it doesn't deserve going to the High Court. Now, while efforts were being taken to reduce trial times over the years, Parliament has given this new jurisdiction. Now, indecent assault can be tried summarily, punishable by the same maximum of 5 years that a judge could have once given for the offense. I must say that since the beginning of this year, and I'm speaking for the time when I joined the Attorney General's chambers, we've been continuing the work on other aspects of laws related to the trial of sexual offenses. Please note, this is not a reaction to this matter. As I've stated since the beginning of this year, we're continuing the work. The AG's office and the Minister of Legal Affairs have made conscious decisions to continuously assess our current laws. Right now, we are working on those aspects of laws which relates to the protection of vulnerable witnesses at trial, so that victims can be safeguarded during the trial process. We are also looking at amendments to remove corroboration requirements for young children. As the law currently stands, if all the evidence and the only evidence against an alleged offender is the evidence of a child of tender years, then unless that man pleads guilty, it would be virtually impossible to convict him. One view which is being considered is that the possibility must exist for a conviction to flow from such evidence, that is, just the oral evidence of the child without any independent corroborating evidence. Meaning, once the child is believed and such evidence has satisfied the magistrate or the jury so that each of them feels sure of the guilt, then that should be the end of the matter and the person should be found guilty. As it stands at the moment, it is possible that some cases may be dismissed because of the uncorroborated evidence of children of tender years. But as I've said, we are working on that. We are also considering amendments to remove the oral preliminary inquiry. As you may all know, as I mentioned earlier, every serious offense charged in Grenada has to go through an oral hearing before a magistrate, unless, of course, the defendant consents to a paper committal, and they hardly ever do. This means that such inquiries can last up to 2 years, and then if there is evidence to indicate that an offense has been committed, as it is called by lawyers a prima facie case, it goes up to the High Court for trial. This in itself creates an opportunity for delay, and I've spoken about that. The point I'm making here is that while good people will be disturbed by these offenses and often be in shock and alarm, it is important to appreciate that significant work has been done legislatively. Grenada is a leader in this regard on many fronts. The stakeholders are at work and in tandem. The police force has its special victims unit, which is expected to be engaged on every sexual allegation in the country so that protocols which have been established may be employed. Those, and the most important one of these, of course, is ensuring that where a child is involved, that the Child Protection Authority is involved in the earliest stages of the matter. If I might at this point remind all that the 2012 amendments actually added a legal obligation on parents and guardians who suspect legal abuse of their children or their ward. This obligation requires them to report their suspicion to the police. Failure to do so, the law actually punishes it by a term of imprisonment. It must be that the policymakers, Parliament, the stakeholders felt that it was necessary, I don't think to seek to imprison parents and wards, but to seek to remind them of the serious nature of us being ever vigilant. The mother of the child in this instant case is a brave person. We hope that some healing can take place for both the child and herself and their family. We hope that the child may be able to move past this and live a normal life. At the AG's work office, as I've said, this work is ongoing. It is not reactive, it is responsive. These are deliberate assessments being continuously made, and we listen. We pay attention. In this regard, I wish to identify the media and those public commentators who will speak or write in the public domain. We are grateful for the work you do. Many a time you point out important matters which assist in the shaping of policy and change. You drive public discussions. That said, it is equally crucial for you to make yourself aware of the various laws and administrative measures, that the changes those laws have brought, so that you can comment responsibly. We can't be aware of everything, but let us do the necessary research if we are to speak of them. In seeking to protect the public, let us at the same time educate them. It is the duty that we owe them. Each of us has a role to carry out. We at the Attorney General's chambers are working hard to perform that role. We hope that every stakeholder equally take that challenge and do the best they can in taking on the responsibilities in fighting these offenses. I thank you very much.
Alrighty, folks, there you have it. That was the Attorney General as he addressed last Tuesday's post-cabinet briefing. There are a number of comments. I'm not surprised this one has got you guys riled up. First of all, Wayne Francis says, wonder if it's even appropriate to mention pastor in front of this man's name. He's referring to the convicted. And Arthur says, yes, it is, to show the people what's going on in these so-called people of God. Wayne says, so sad but true. The ones that are hiding behind the words. Yeah? Yeah. Whew. Bad enough if a non-pastor did that, but a pastor? John Nozinek says, read the Attorney General. He says, I am told. He has all the details. Sorry, but he doesn't give me any confidence in the legal system. Okay, John. And John also goes on to say to Wayne Francis, says, Wayne, I can't think of many names to put in front of this so-called pastor's name. Wayne says, it's not the best, but I think it's a step in the right direction, thanks to Junior George and all of the media. Yeah, Junior, you're quick on the draw, my friend. Gem FM, the sheriff, says, good morning to all the listeners. Mr. George Grant, a pleasant good morning to you and all your guests. Stay blessed. I'm getting ready to go to church. Pray for all of us. Pray for all of us, please. Arthur Langine says, my dear people, I'm getting sick listening to this guy, but I will continue to listen. He's referring to the Attorney General. On his voice, he isn't even angry. And Wayne Francis says, actions speak louder than words. Sean out there says, so as I understand this judgment, the judges would be better employed as pimps, and bad pimps at that. It's not nice, Sean. They could have gotten much more than $500 for the misuse of this child. How dare they show such disregard for the victim and the lasting effect this will have on him? He will need counseling and help for many years to come. As for the man who walked away, the job of the legal system is to protect us from such perpetrators. They failed us all badly. John here says, is he saying, and he's referring to the Attorney General here, is he saying you can do that? Wait, hold on. Is he saying you can do what you like as the victim is too young to give credible evidence? I don't think so, John. I really don't think so. Abraham Joseph says, listeners must note that it was the NDC government that was in office in 2012. Please note. Roel Filbert says, will the accused be brought back for trial, and does Grenada have an extradition treaty with the United States? I think we do. And, okay. That's it for the Attorney General and this child abuse issue. We've been joined by Bob Marryshow, Mickerman Alexander, and let's scroll back, see who else is there. Nicole Lindsay is there. Janelle Samuel, Josephine Blanche, Michael Alexander, Andre Celestine, Alston Tisha George, and Filbert Lewis. Good morning, guys. Good to see you. Now, my dear friends, whoa. We're going to spend about an hour and a half on this next feature. I'll tell you a little bit about it when I come back after, when I come back after this break.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grandans, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
We are honored to partner with the Grenada Schools, Inc., the Ministry of Education, and the Caliste Government School in providing this library. GCPI program put $120,000 or 66% of the cost of the library. But it's not an investment that is intended to bring a financial return. It is an investment in the human capital of our youth. in Grenada.
GRENADA has shown us their seriousness about partnership, their seriousness about education, and their seriousness about nation building. That local partnership tells our major donors that Grenada is interested.
We have got a big vision at Grenada Schools. We believe that what we can do is, through literacy, have the most literate country in the Caribbean. We are very happy that you got this gift from ourselves and from GRENADA.
We see this library as a unique and valuable resource. One of the best things about receiving this library is that it honors and recognizes the efforts and contributions of a company like GRENADA and Grenada Schools Incorporated.
Since 1994, GRENADA shareholders have invested over $22 million. This has been invested in the communities throughout Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. We hope this library will serve the students and school well for many years to come.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put my food in this.
Where you get that?
At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That's why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Alrighty, folks, just before we get to our main feature, there's a comment here that slipped in a few moments ago I want to share with you. It comes from Ernesto, and he's asking a question here. What can $600 do for a child who is scared for the rest of his life, while the court enjoys $1,500 for not rendering justice to that child? Good question, Ernesto. Good question. All right, my dear friends, saddle up, saddle up. Today, you're about to hear the voices of persons who were directly involved in one way or another with the Grenada Revolution, 1979, 1983. If you're here today looking for interviews, you'll be terribly disappointed, and I'm sorry. Since my return to Grenada in 1986, I have heard a lot of stories about what happened here during the revolution, both good and bad. I was not here at the time, and so whatever I heard about that era was just hearsay. Following my return, however, one thing was clear. I began to feel the pain of those who had experienced those atrocities of that era. And one of the things which became clearly evident to me was that those who were here never wanted to see a repetition of what went wrong back in those days. But thanks to the freedom of thought which has been bestowed upon me by Almighty God, I also saw another side of the story. And thankfully, I never allowed those atrocities I had heard to deter me from developing a deep appreciation for the good things which happened between 1979 and 1983. And those of you who do not believe that there were good things about the revolution, take your head out of the sand. So just for today, let's forget about interviews. For this program, I spent just a little over a week with people who were in some way involved in or affected by the Revo. And what I said to them was this: over the past 36 years, we have heard a lot about the revolution, pros and cons. And I'm sure that in the coming years, we will hear a lot more. But if I gave you 5 or 10 minutes to speak to Grenada and the world, what would you like to reveal to them about the 1979-1983 period of this country's history? And so, this is how this morning's feature came about. You know these people better than I do. And many of you were here during the Revo and would therefore be able to authenticate what they are all saying to you. Some of the stuff you hear will be no news to you. Other stuff you may be hearing for the first time. I do hope that you will find this content enlightening in some way or another. It was put together in no chronological order, no order of importance of the participants. It begins quietly with a narrative from a young man who tells of his escape after being incarcerated for some time. His name is Harry Daly. Check this out.
I was arrested the 25th of June 1981. Arrested in Tivoli, and then they take us to St. George's Police Headquarters. We spent 2 days at the police headquarters, and at the second night, about 2:30, they take us to Hopeville. But when we reach in Hopeville, they put us in a bucan, like a animal pen. Then when we reach inside the truck, when we reach at Hopeville, the truck reverse at the back. And when we reach at front of the building, we see a big gate open up. When we go inside, and we look around, we see an old building there. Well, at night when we look up to the sky, we see in the sky, we see in the moonlight was bright, we see in the moon everything. Then we lie down. We see some mattress on the ground there. We lie down on the ground there. Everybody pull a mattress, lie down there the night. But when we wake up in the morning and we see the condition of the mattress, like the mattress they take out from the poor house or the mad house or the crazy house, you know, because the mattress and them was, it's condemned mattress. Mattress and them was in good condition to lie down. Then we tell them police about it, we tell them officers about it. They didn't give us no good answer, they give us no positive answer. They start telling us counter revolutionary. So we did. At the time we had some barefoot but somebody give us that free at the police headquarters. We ask them for permission to eat the breadfruit, to roast the breadfruit. They tell us no. They can't give us permission to roast it. So we did nothing to eat because they don't give us nothing to eat at the time. We stayed in the police headquarters for 2 days, no food. From the time we entered Hopeville, we spent 7 days in Hopeville, no food. And on the 7th day, husband come there. And then husband give us permission to roast the breadfruit. So we asked him if we can get some bananas and things. He said, well, he go see what he could do. On the next day, we see a chocolate of fig, they drop a chocolate of fig. Before, so we started roasting fig. For 3 months, we didn't roast fig. Well, I did hear Lieutenant come and he said, well, the doctor tell him that too much of roast food don't go help. Too much of roast food don't so healthy for us, so that we got to start to cook food. Well, we question them, they say they go bring part. We tell them, well, we is Ital man, because we is Rasta man, we do eat flesh and things. They say, no problem. They go bring part and we go grow vegetables and things and eat. But they is bring the part. When they bring the part, we start cooking. Start to come up with a policy. They say, well, they come up with a policy and saying that we have to work in otherwise to get food. And who don't work, don't eat. So, some of us turn out to work, yeah, who don't turn out to work? I friend them didn't so work. I friend any friends and them, they didn't so work. So they so had them inside. And once you don't go out and work, they handcuff on you for the whole day, the whole night. The only sort they take out handcuff on you, if you want to pee, or you want to go number 2. But we start working, we start planting cabbage, burn coals, plant corn, melon. But when them things are them feet now for we to get to it, we only seen transport just come and take transport goods and just go with it. When we say, well, I have a policy saying eat what I grow and grow what I eat. And now we planting the vegetables and we just see transport just come and take and go eat and we get any to eat. But they don't give us no good answer about that. So then, a day I say I can go through that problem and I'm inside there, I don't do nothing to come inside there. I go escape. I will go. So the night I was sleeping and then I get a vision where I'm moving out and me and Ailey from Monkridge. So I call on Ailey 3 times. Then the man start to laugh, so I jump up in the sleep. And they tell me, well, look what I say. So the day now when I see the lieutenant come with a van load of food. Goods and things, grocery and things. He bring how much peel of pork and things. You know, Rasta man do eating pork, but they bring how much pig tail, pig snout, smoke herring, all kind of different meat. They drop flour, sugar, everything. The lieutenant called me in person to help him joke down the goods to the MS hall. I help him. So when I come up now, I used to sing in Hopeville, study little music and things. So I pick up a guitar and I sing and say, do that shit in the alley. I ran by Miss Ali, she got in a rally, you know. She come home early, you know. So the man started to kicks and laugh and things. So my partner called out to me that I move. He said, I must. What you want to make a turn out? I said, yes, I will move, you know. Okay, so I'm going on here. Remember I go make money, cook and all that thing. I didn't come here for that. So then, I said, well, if you're moving, you go move out first. And I will meet you in top of the cane belt. So, when he did, now the lieutenant go back with the van. I said, well, that's time to move. Because once the lieutenant go back with the van, then soldier can go anywhere far. So I said, he said, I must be ready. I said, yes, I'm ready, but you have to go first. So then he moved. When he moved, I waited 5 minutes. After the 5 minutes now, I leave and I tell the lieutenant down to go down in the mess hall. He say, okay, I'll give you 5 minutes. So with the 5 minutes he give me, I go through the mess hall, I go across the main road, I pass through the pasture and I go across the river and I hit up the cane belt. When I hit up the cane belt, I call my partner. He don't answer. I call him about 3 times before he answer. Then I tell him, let's move. We can't delay. So then I tell him, lead the way. But he leading the way now. He don't know down there. He bring me back in the same junction. He make like a wrong about to bring me back in the same junction. So I say, no, I go lead. I say, the sun rising between Tivoli and Poetry. So just take a little guidance at the sun. And we go move. So we start moving. I start to lead. And we start moving. Well, in moving and thing, I say, well, I say in the holidays, I used to go and buy barbash for my mother with pet butter. And we did in Wester Hall. So I say we did between them Red Gate. I say I want to bust out on Red Gate. So I say when we bust there all day, we wait on night time come now to move. So we end up reaching Red Gate there about minutes to 6. But we stay in the bush there because when outside start to get dark now, we decide to move. So I say, well, don't panic. I say, don't ask no question. Don't ask plenty question. Just move. I know where he is. I say, just be walking. I say, when you meet a transport coming, just take covers. So we live going up. When transport coming, we go on the side of the road. Sometimes we hide behind a little bush and we going up. So when we walk now, reaching St. David, they have a black hole. So a transport start coming and the man rush through the crowd. So then people start to say, what happened now? Where the smart people are come out, boy? Where the smart people are come out? So I didn't panic because, I didn't panic. So then we start moving again. So when we just say, well, the same thing I tell you before we leave. I tell you, don't panic. Because anytime you panic, you will be suspicious. So then we live coming up. When we reach Hope, tell me hungry. So I tell me, once we get a jelly to drink, we see a shot jelly tree, I climb it. We pick out 4 jelly, and bust it with a piece of wood, bust it in the head. But you end up drinking one, I drink about 2.5. Yeah, I say I full in my belly in case. So that whole way, I don't want to go back with belly full. Yeah. So when we coming up there now, a man was coming out with a transport in the road, with she and his girlfriend. So the man, he ended up running that way. Both of us take covers bloody cocoa, but he run out the cocoa field so fast. I did so when I call him, I don't hear no answer. I call, no answer. But I waited till all after 11. When I realized he run out on me, I just take my time and I end up coming out. And that's the last time I see the man. The last time I see him. So then I come up and I end up sleeping in Dumfoolery in a ghetto where I know my Rasta brethren they have. And the morning I end up going home by my mother. But when I reach by my mother now, I see where they have kind of impression behind the house because my mother has plenty of fig tree behind the house with soldiers and things like. So I tell my mother, I say, Mommy, did you have people around your house last night? And she say, yeah, she had the dog and them back in. I say, well, look where they sleep here, look the impression. I say, that's what I tell you now. You cannot come here in the night. If I have to visit you, I have to visit you in the day. Check? So then, I take what I have to take there, I tell her what I want, she gets it for me. I didn't tell her I want a pair of shoes. I tell her I want a pair of shoes, but she tell me, well, I won't get the shoes now, I'll get the shoes, but So I take some grocery and thing and I end up moving out. Yeah. But what I did now, I used to stay, sometimes when I used to stay in Dumfoolery and I always go in Sotters. Making them feel I stay in Sotters. But in Dumfoolery and living there, they always go in Sotters and look for me. Like Batway and these areas. Yeah, because if I go, if you say I live and I go Batway Street, I could always get caught. So I go in Grenville direction and I'm making the wrongs and then I'm going up Sotters. Yeah. And they never caught up with me, and otherwise, after they come by my parents and tell me my parents, let me come back and stay home because I don't do nothing. I don't make sense. If they see me in the bush, they go shoot me, and I tell mommy I don't come in because I know communist and I know it's revolution. And they just telling her that to get me back, to get me in the house for them to come and take me.
I'm here, just pondering. Some comments here. First of all, Lydia Jane, hold on. Alana Morris Van Tassel says, forward ever, backward never. Maurice Bishop and all the victims of the rebel, rest in peace. So says Alana. Lydia James, listening to this piece here, had several different reactions. First she says, oh my gosh, inhumane. And then the part about food, she says, roast food is better than no food. Yes, Lydia, and your sense of humor. She also says here at the end, oh no! You know, that's the reaction from a lot of people when they hear this stuff. Margaret Soda says they were enslaved. You know what she was talking about, eh? Now you can understand why the guy wanted out. Adrian Cummings says, crazy. Huh. Okay, Pilgrims, that was the first piece. I do have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more pieces for you. 6 more pieces. And we'll begin getting to them right after this.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate, Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Hey, what? I just came from the land and this sign here caught my eye. What's that sign about?
Someone must have asked Grenlec to move a pole. But you know, there's no space reserved on the side of the road for planting poles. So Grenlec has to get permission from landowners, and that can take a lot of time.
Oh, Grenlec asked me to help them contact my neighbor Ben about planting a pole on his land. But Ben passed away. His children own the land, but they all live abroad.
That's why Grenlec needs customers to inform them in writing at least 3 months in advance.
3 months? All that?
It seems like a lot, but think about the time it will take for Grenlec to find and get permission from all of Ben's children. And sometimes moving one pole requires you to move the pole before, the one after, plus the wires that support them on the ground. That means even more landowners to find and get permission from. Then Grenlec needs to schedule their teams and notify customers about any power outages.
Well, I need the pole on the farm moved, so I'm going to write Grenlec a letter now.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
All right, folks, you know, there's a comment here from Lydia. She says, the revel was good, but damn bad too. And you know, Lydia, yeah, you're going to find that to be a common theme running through the 6 other persons you're going to be hearing from. Ernesto Jose says, it's hard to believe we were doing it to our own. Yeah, you'll hear that raised a couple of times in the pieces coming up as well. Okay, next I would like to play a piece with the comments that were made by a gentleman who many of you know as Kruma, Livingston Nelson from out there in Tivoli. A friend of mine who was visiting Nesta Aberdeen took me up to Tivoli one afternoon a couple of Fridays ago. And we had a chat with both Livingston and Denis. And not a chat, actually. Like I said at the top of the program, I just held my little, where's my little device here? Yeah, here's my little pocket. I just held my pocket in front of these guys and take it away, take it away. I'm not going to ask you any questions other than to say, hey, listen, what would you like Grenada and the world to know about the revolution 36 years later? And these are the comments they made. Here's Livingston.
But for me, the revolution is bittersweet. But by and large, because I'm from Tivoli, we get the short end of the deal, I would say. I always say to people that Tivoli was probably the foundation, the seat, the military base that actually helped propel the revolution. And it is from Tivoli we were able to take over the airport at Grenville, Birch Grove. From Tivoli we went as far as the Hermitage, Montrose, Sotters, the last Union, the last police station being in Guave. So I know they had a real base here from Tivoli. Apart from that, some of the leaders of the revolution, the Morris, the Radix, etc., always visited Tivoli. Some of the people that came to give assistance to the revolution from overseas always used to be coming in Tivoli and hiding in Tivoli. So some of the forces that really bolstered the revolution was from Tivoli. Yet, very soon after, Tivoli fell out of grace with the revolution. And so people from Tivoli was coined as counter-revolutionary. And so there was constant patrolling in the night. You saw evidence of military berets, of hats, sometimes under people's houses. And not only that, in excess of 20 persons were actually incarcerated from Tivoli. The names can be supplied the next time. But some of the things I witnessed clearly about the revolution is the lack of dialogue, the way ideas and ideologies were just centralized, and there was no room for diverse opinion. There was no other alternative interpretation, and so people were not just one, but people were jailed and people were tortured for no unfortunate reason. I remember some very small detail. I mean, I remember a guy called Tower that was just visiting, and Tower was placed on one of those big Janet truck, and he was given a marijuana tree, and he held that marijuana tree. Tower ended up spending 3 years in jail just because he was visiting. We had organized some demonstration in Tivoli, yes, and people came and see, and just people by the side of the road were just randomly arrested, and those people spent 3 years without trial. Some people went days without food, some people were tortured. And I think Denis would be in a better position to give you some of the names like Winston, Simon, Broco, and some of the other guys that was seriously tortured. But I must say, later on when I analyzed exactly what took place in the actual revolution, I don't know if I am surprised or if I am just, yes, maybe the word is surprised or maybe disappointed or maybe hurt. We had a situation where we were fighting against a colonial power. That was the whole thrust of the revolution. And yet at the end of the day, many Grenadians gunned down, many Grenadians got killed. Maurice Bishop got killed and executed with his group of persons. Yet when the real enemies came, none of those persons that was in the forefront of the revolution, they stood up and fight against the Americans. So were they cowards? Were they just opportunists? You have enough conviction and passion to actually to defend and to kill persons in the name of the revolution. Yet none of the leaders, so-called leaders, got killed or injured when the real enemy came. And I always found that to be a missing piece. There are some other things I wanted to address. When we talk about, well, we're fighting against imperialism. Yet we move from, say, Imperial America, and there was this total internal fight where we wanted to go more into the ambit of the Soviet Union. And I wonder, we were just trading one leadership from the next leadership, or one group of a hegemonic power, and we're trying to cultivate our next one. And I also found that so disturbing and so opportunistic. And so when you look back at the revolution, you're wondering, what was it that the people or the leaders of the revolution actually believed? Another puzzling piece, I'm putting my thoughts together, so I'm going in. The next puzzling piece, some of the persons that were hardcore proponents of socialism are, I can't help but notice the evolution over the years as they now sit comfortable with different administration and present administration that is cultivating our next imperial power. So how, I know this imperial power seems to be more imperialistic, want to take more hold of Grenada than even the Americans. So I wonder how these people that were leaders of the revolution and talking about socialism and talking about fighting against imperialism fought dairy on that tenet. One on that tenet, and then now doing everything in their power to get Grenada in the ambit of a next colonial power, and they're sitting comfortable in positions of power and authority in this colonial government.
Situation.
There were some other pieces I found them quite puzzling now as you look back. One of it being some of the persons that were led to the execution of Morris would say, oh, that the Morris was taken to the military barrack. And then I really asked the question, who was in charge of the military? Who was the prime minister? But who was the commander-in-chief? If so it's like you have the commander-in-chief is at the highest level of the military. He chose a group of persons or thousands of persons. He was comfortable with them at the military barracks. Yet people were saying you went to free the military barracks from civilian when the head of the country was there leading its people. So again, some of those theories, some of the things that have been said, I found it quite disturbing. One final piece, one final puzzle. Yes, the new Jewel movement was going around trying to educate the people. But history would tell you, and if persons that were here would recollect, the group of persons that did the most for the sensitization, the education of the revolution was the Rastafarians. It was through the music, through the way of life, that they had a message that led to Grenadians becoming more radicalized. Not just Grenadians, but people in the region more radicalized than everything else. Yet at the end of the day, those persons that did not even want to pick up a cutlass to fight, did not even see guns as necessary, wanted to escape what they call Babylon, were incarcerated wholesale in Hopeville. And I'm wondering, what was the justification of the revolution? For arresting, incarcerating, and torturing the Rastafarian communities so wholesale. And it was through the music that people become radicalized and revolutionized and was ready to fight against imperial power. Yet these group of persons that did not seem to be a major threat to the revolution probably wanted to smoke marijuana. Yet these are the people that you treat them as if they were actual slaves here in Grenada. And those puzzles, those theories to me are extremely contradictory and frightening that a group, our people, could turn on our own self in that kind of way.
Still pondering, still pondering. Yes, sirree, I'm here. Taking my time getting to the comments that are being posted out there on social media. And these comments pertain to the statement you just heard. Taking my time. Denis Charles says the rebel covered up their atrocities very well, while at the same time accusing Gary of doing much less evil. He also says slave labor was used in Hopevale. Okay. Ann Thomas says, good morning to you folks. And Margaret Soda says, they were cowards and opportunists. They used the country people because they were wimps. PBC college boys. Funny how they all live in the U.S. Isn't that interesting? Interesting comment there, Margaret. Interesting comment. Lydia James says, well, after hearing all these bad stories, whatever happened to the Revo happened for a reason. It seems as though there was more bad than good. So says Lydia. Arthur Langine says, yes, my brother, go on with your story. I know one who is making lots of money with this government. Know what he's talking about, right? Sean says, the British were clever to allow the Americans to invade. Had the British invaded, then the leaders of the revolution would have risen up. If only against the colonial injustice to that date. Anthony Howard says, how do you think the people would have responded if the U.S. had landed prior to Maurice being put under house arrest? Good question. Has anybody been thinking about that? Wayne Francis says, you shouldn't rush to judgment based on just them hearsay. I've always made that point, Wayne. Thank you. Beverly Steele says, I'm listening intently. Love you all. Thanks for your insightful comments, Livingston. Beverly, nice to see you. Arthur Langine says, well said, my brother. Anthony DeRig says, good to hear from those who had actual experiences. Anthony, thank you so much for that comment. That's what this was all about. Kipling Francis says, up to this day, lots of people who took part in the Revo had no idea as to why they took part. Yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah. All right. Denis Charles says, Livingston had two brothers who were arrested. His sister was picked up too. A lot of people were picked up. Okay, folks, break time.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Well, look at who's here. Cheney Joseph. Hello, Mr. Joseph. He says, do we wait on 50 years to collate the facts of a short-lived revolution, its gains and its atrocities? Good question. Anthony DeReg says there were books written on the revolution. More are needed. Well, Anthony, I don't know if you heard me earlier on this morning, but I mentioned that only yesterday, here it is, only yesterday, or day before, William Joseph dropped off this. Let me tell you how this thing came about, And I think it was in March. I had William Joseph and Brian Pitt right here in the studio sitting next to me here. And I don't remember how the conversation went, but I do remember that Brian challenged Willie to write a book about the revolution. Yeah? Well, Willie took him seriously. His book is now finished. It's available on Amazon.com. Here's a copy. It's called The Grenada Revolution. New one. Check this out. Ernesto says, GG, we have Peter and Chester who were from the start to finish in the revolution. When would we hear their side of the good and the bad and the ugly? You know, if any of these guys are willing to talk with me, Georgie Porgy's wide open. Can't get them to talk, man. Mr. Humphrey told me some time ago I wanted them to come on here and spend about 5 or 10 minutes with me. Refused. Says when he's coming to this program, he needs an hour. Well, I mean, I don't always have an hour to give away. You know, if he's willing to pre-book something to come and talk, hey, I'll try and make arrangements. But I can't at the last minute say, hey, these folks who were pre-booked are off and you're on. As for the other one, I've given up. Sent them emails, phoned them. Okay. Wayne Francis says there are people that are winning to destroy the great work of our great PM and the true meaning of the Revo. People that are winning, I guess she meant willing. Denis Charles says, Wayne Francis, you are beyond help. Nalco Lindsay says, why isn't our history being taught in our schools? More questions than answers. Dennis is calling on Hudson George to please step in and say something. Channy Joseph says, my own experience I will never forget about the revolution was working as a sports writer and an East German player defecting to West Germany. Okay. He was their top player and I featured it in the Monday newscast. Well, that warranted me being sent back to NISTEP, NISTEP, for political training in journalism. A lot of stories have been told and will yet be told. Mr. Joseph? Bob Marryshow says, how about a museum where people and visitors can visit? Like I said, more questions than answers. Can guarantee it would be a big tourist attraction. Free PRA milk that make them so kayal, says Margaret Soda. Okay, I confess, Margaret. Kayal, I'm not sure what that word means, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners do. Just let me stroll back here. Bob Marryshow says, I don't need any more books. I need a movie. Okay, yeah. All right, folks. All right. Now, you are about to hear from Mr. Denis Charles. Here he goes.
I want to touch on something. The revolution that started in 1979, it was led by many unknown, I should say, individuals. They were not recognized, they had no fame, and for that matter, most of them were incarcerated months after the revolution. Okay? I want to bring your attention back to a gentleman by the name of Teddy Victor. Teddy Victor was the founder of the Jewel movement. He is from Vincent's St. David's. He came into prominence with the situation at Lassages Beach in St. David's, and they held a whole lot of demonstrations and all of that, together with I call him his acolyte, Anthony Mitchell. You might know him as Billing from Vincent's St. David's, and many others. Included in that group was Unison Whiteman. And they started a movement that became the Jewel movement. Right? The Jewel movement was the forerunner of the New Jewel movement. Maurice and Bernard Code, they were not here at the time. So it was started basically by Teddy Victor and Unison Whiteman. Somebody else that history doesn't recognize is a gentleman by the name of James Heary from Sotez, Lamode, Mali area. James Heary was the individual that the barrels of grease, actually barrels of guns, were shipped to during the Gary period so that they would have enough arms to overthrow Gary. All right? James Heary. Another individual that died in prison, and he was key to propagating and pushing newspaper leaflets all over River Road and St. George's for the Jewel movement. His name was Ralphie, better known as Ralph Thompson. He was the hardest working man for the Grenada Revolution, the hardest working man for the Jewel movement. In 1976, with the return of Maurice Bishop, he had his MAP faction. Bernard Ford had his Orel. Okay, everybody had their little group, their little interest group, so to speak. So the Jewel movement morphed into the New Jewel movement, and Maurice Bishop was selected as leader. He did not found the New Jewel movement, neither the Jewel movement before it. Okay? So in Tivoli, we have a young man by the name of Kennedy Boudlal, which everybody knows, and his brother Bob Boudlal. Those are figures that contributed to the revolution of 1979. They get no fame. Okay? No fame at all. In fact, all of them ended up in jail. And the last one I'd mention was Strawn Phillip, who was a British-trained soldier from St. Paul's. And he's the guy who led the assault on the True Blue Green Beast barracks, or the Grenada Defense Force barracks, the morning of March 13th, okay, with a bunch of St. Paul's young men. He was the leader, and they followed him, and it succeeded. However, Bernard Coe did not take any part in the March 13th overthrow of Gary. Neither Maurice Bishop took any part in leading any revolution on the morning of March 13th, 1979. The two of them were missing in action. Actually, they were hiding with an escape plan, just in case the rebel fell and Gary was coming to hang everybody. Actually, he would have hanged everybody in Tivoli anyway. So, Ralphie, he was detained after the revolution, and he was killed. He died in prison. I won't go into the details. Kennedy Boudlal spent at least 3 years, I think, in detention. Okay. We also had Strawn Phillip, who was killed in his house in St. Paul's. James Sherry was also jailed after the revolution. I mean, all of them, including Teddy Victor, who had a gun planted on him in his car, and he was stopped just further down, searched, and gotten, you know, they got the same gun they just planted over there. And he was picked up for what? For plans to overthrow the government of Maurice Bishop, the PRG. It was a setup. And persons like Goat, Redhead, and also Peter David, they were present, firing shots around Teddy Victor's head. And they picked him up. They also picked up Anthony Billing Mitchell from Vincent's. And they were jailed for a long time. I spent years in prison with them. So when you really look at the mixed bag the revolution was, we got an airport. But the airport wasn't really just an airport. We all know that. Russia and Cuba had strategic interests in expanding their power, expanding their reach, and using the airport as bait, waving it in front of other islands to challenge America's hegemony in the region here. So it's just politics, international politics, big power politics between East and West, and the Grenadian people did not know. So by and large, the revolution had some gains. They had an emphasis on education. We had many sent to Cuba, came back as doctors, dentists, pilots, and so forth, fishermen and all of that, fine. But it devastated between 4,000 to 6,000 Grenadians jailed without trial for no reason. I myself spent 2 years and 8 months in prison. I can show you my hand. Look at it. It is half paralyzed. It cannot open, right? Being shot in my cell at point blank range, okay? I had 3 major operations. And if I could show you my waist, where they took flesh to patch my hand up so I could have partial use of it. This is me, okay? This is me, all right? I haven't been compensated. I haven't received a cent. But to call the revolution as if it is something made in heaven, it's a joke. It's a travesty. This is my contribution to you. And as I said, it's a mixed bag, but I would say it was more negative, more destructive than positive.
All right, so that was Denis Charles, and we had that conversation not this past Friday, the Friday before. All right, 11:30, folks, 11:30, and we still have 4 more voices that I want you to hear from. But first, let me turn to some of the comments that are here. Jenny Joseph says, I genuinely believe the revolution failed because of too much youthful arrogance in the leadership. Jenny, I want you to listen particularly closely when Terrence Marryshow speaks, okay? Margaret Soda says, a Sauteurs man was Strawn Phillip. I heard that he came from St. Patrick's. Yes, Margaret. Satyrs in St. Patrick, remember? Okay. Hudson George. The Hudson George? Mr. George, if you are the Hudson George, there may be others out there, I don't know, but if you are, when I'm through with the next 4 pieces, I would appreciate it if you gave me a call here, because I think somebody earlier on was saying they'd like to hear from you. So anyhow, Hudson George says here, Denis Charles, all Grenadians must tell their story. Rural people must play their part in society, organize forums and hold discussions. It is very good to hear people discuss from various perspectives. Academics from the left are classroom theorists. They never experience the practicality of everyday life. So says Hudson George. Margaret Soda is asking the question. Dr. Japal, remember him? That man was probably one of my first doctors when I was knee-high to a grasshopper. Lydia James says, how come they were missing in action in the Revo, but became prominent afterwards? Another one of those unanswered questions. She also goes on to say, Uncle Tilly was imprisoned without a trial too. If it wasn't ended, he would have become, if it wasn't ended, what would have become of Grenada and Grenadians? So asks Lydia. Beverly Steele says, thanking God for your life, Dennis. Okay. Dennis responds here by saying, Bob Marryshow, let us talk about a documentary as soon as possible. Whoa! Grenada, the next Hollywood, the next Revel Hood. Yeah? Wayne Francis says, be warned. This man will go to great lengths to discredit the great PM for his own selfish reason. Judge for yourself. Who is he referring to? I guess he's referring to Dennis, since Dennis was the last person I played. Bob Marryshow says, you have my number. Call me anytime. Maybe you can finance Nell Cole's sister to do the movie. Okay. Boy, they got things going already. All right, folks. Another person who stopped by here just, I think it was Thursday. Michael Mitchell. Does not ring a bell? Okay, if I said Senator, would you understand? Here he goes.
My name, Michael Mitchell, popularly known as Senator. Senator, I was never voted into Parliament, but I was never thrown out of Parliament. The People's Senator. Yes, during the period 1983, I was actually attached to the Immigration Department and charged with the responsibility of writing passport. At that time, passport was handwritten, and therefore you have outstanding penmanship. So I was gifted with that, and therefore I was chosen to be writing passport. So I did work in that department, leading up to the unfaithful date in October. Coming straight to the point of October 19th, the demonstration, the freeing of Bishop from his residence at Mount Wilden, and he being led to the fort. I actually happened to go up to the fort with the nurses who were carrying medical supply, because it was stated that Bishop was not filling up to mark, and therefore some nurses, including Sister Anne Alexander then, now Anne Peters. So I actually went up, assisted with carrying some medical supplies she was having, and got into the up room up on the fort. And in there you had a number of persons, including Morris, Jacqueline, and so forth. And while there, Bishop was actually, moving up and down and as if gathering his thought, because it was said that from there he's going to make some speech down at the market square. And while in the room there, all that I heard was a loud explosion that shook the ops room. Boom! And then I heard gunshots firing from inside and people screaming, and the mayhem started. Screaming, and I remember I saw there inside the room there, Podgy was like, oh my God, ceasefire, ceasefire. And Bishop was saying, oh my God, they have turned the guns against the people. Why have they turned the guns against the people? And in the heat of the action, next to me, lying on the ground, when I looked to my left, I noticed that student from Grenville, Gemma Belma. Yes, it was Gemma Belma. Gemma Belma was screaming because a bullet actually struck her in the head. And that bullet struck her in the head and actually hit the wall next to me, ricochet in the wall, and actually grazed my back. So I actually have a bullet graze in my back. Yes. And while that mayhem was carrying on and people were screaming and the bullets were raging, and Podgy keep asking to ceasefire, ceasefire. And Alexander then actually started to bolt out. She was like, getting all screaming. And I said, where are you going? Huh? Stay down. And I actually put out my leg and tripped her from her as she was going out. She fell on the ground and I came over her. I sort of sheltered her. And she was screaming because she got struck somewhere in the buttocks. And that continued as if it was like hours, but it wasn't hours. The time was running very quick. And Podgy keeps shouting, ceasefire, ceasefire. Then there was a lull in the firing, and I heard a command, come out with your hands in the air. And right in front of me was Jacqueline Kirk. So I held on to Gemma by the shoulder. Another brother held her leg. Another brother held her by the waist, and we was coming out in a half crouching manner. And when we got down the step of the operation room, on the flat there was vehicles burning, people screaming. I saw a couple of people that got shot on the ground. I heard a voice said, look at Jacqueline Craft, don't let her go. I said, oh, this thing is serious. So what we did, we stepped over the persons we saw on the ground who got shot, vehicles burning, smoke, and there was, I say, a lull in the firing, and we made our way to the casualty department with Gemma Belma. And she was like gasping for breath, and when we got there, they admitted her. Then I heard this gunshot, because they had asked Bishop and Jacqueline Kirk and others to go up on the square, up the fort. And I heard the gunshot and I said, oh, this cannot be a good sign. So I had to move from the hospital, rush down to Springs, where I was staying at the time, pack a bag, and head up to Vincent's, to my family. And strange enough, when I got up there about almost 9:30 the night, there were candlelight prayers going on, because my parents got the news that I got shot and maybe I die on the foot. So they were singing praise and all of that. So I came like a ghost, and they were happy to see me. I give them a brief account, and still my back was bleeding. I didn't get no attendance. And when I realized Vincent's, a hot zone, the home of Teddy Victor, the home of two of the security drivers, I said they will come looking for a number of guys. Vincent was known for having a lot of strong supporters of the revolution. Therefore, I said, no, I have to move from Vincent's and head up through the forest, through Granny Town, through PTA Town, Granny Town, and eventually I end up at some friends of mine in Cloget. So October 25th took me in Cloget. And following October 25th, when everything simmered down, I actually went over to Barbados to get treatment along with Sister Anne Alexander. Okay? So I was able to get treatment for my wound that was starting to get infected. So much so for October 1983 that I can recall. And what stuck with me is, the mantra, the arms of the country should never be used against the people of the country. And we had a good thing going, the revolution had a lot of good aspect of it, but we just, everything just died a sudden death. And I think we should take the good things, agro-industry, marketing board, the international airport, scholarships to poor people, children, these good aspects.
Yeah. Oh, hello there. Yes, sirree, yes, sirree. I'm still here. Folks, I see that they're already planning a low-budget film. That'd be nice to see that materialize. Certainly nice to see that materialize. Let me get into some of the comments here that were posted while you were listening. Denis Charles says, let me say here, that were we to do a documentary on the Revo, I would not accept any of the proceeds. I would donate all proceeds to Grenadian charities, schools and hospitals at once. Goes on to say, I want to clear the air here. I am doing this to expose the evil that the Revo was. I tell the truth. So says Mr. Charles, whom you heard from just a wee bit earlier. Sean says, thank you so much for this informative program. Wonderful to hear these people. You're welcome, sir. Thank you. Chenny Joseph says, I can still remember that Wednesday, October 19th, as if it was yesterday. I remember going to the ward nearest the casualty to see Connie Mayers and Pamela Bullen Hood in her blue and white uniform tending to the injured. I also recall Kenny Frazier asking me to drop off a punch with his pistol to his then girlfriend and child mother in Darbo. That was around 11:30 a.m. He remembers the time, 36 years later. Antheorello says, thank you, Senator. Thank you. Bob Marryshow says, full disclosure, I would say that was not in Grenada, I would say that was not in Grenada at the time. I was at Polytechnic University in Brooklyn studying electrical engineering. I just could not focus. That semester, I got 2 Fs and had to transfer to City College, NYC, to finish my studies. This is mad public for the first time. Sharon Simmons says, thank you, Senator, I'm learning a lot. And Margaret Soda says, you haven't heard anything yet. Yes, Margaret. There are more people I would love to have talked with. A lot of people don't want to talk. Yvonne Joseph says, all the criminals who created all the evils during the revolution are outside. Some of them are in Mitchell's government. The mastermind court is living nice in Jamaica or wherever. Check NNP party. They are all inside that party. And same Keith helped to free all of them. Ernesto Jose says, Senator didn't mention Roots Vibration drummer, which he was a part of. Good vibes. The drummers, Tivoli drummers, yeah. Okay, folks, now, coming up next. I don't know that this gentleman was involved in the rebel per se. Could have been, but I don't know. What I do know is that he's just penned a book, which I told you about a little while ago. It's called The Grenada Revolution. And his name is William Joseph. He has some ideas about the revolution as well. Here we go.
It's really very important for all of us as Grenadians who have an interest or generally interested in politics and government and so on, to bear at the top of our minds the importance of the culture of the people, the Grenadian culture generally, and especially how we apply that in our political behavior. That is a basic sort of fundamental issue. So too will be the issue of demography and class. But culture is really about those things that we do, what we believe, and why we believe those things, what we've practiced over the years. And in the politics, we notice, for example, that we have a preference for liking of the leader, whoever the leader is going to be. People call it charisma and so on. It's really about likability, all right? That appeal, that bonding that people feel towards the political leader. Now, so that is a sort of homepage point on it. So if we carry it forward to a couple of things in the revolution, experience during the revolution, one of the things that we would appreciate to begin with is that whereas the revolution appointed Morris Bishop as prime minister and therefore leader of government, Morris Bishop essentially was accepted as a leader for the Grenadian people since 1976, that is to say, long before the revolution. So on that cultural ground, and as things transpired, those who were in the hierarchy of the revolutionary movement were always going to be faced with a problem of reconciling the appointment that the party made with the question of the acceptance on the part of the people of Morris Bishop as leader. And so, for example, when they turned a very wrongful and foolish page that they called joint leadership, clearly the Grenadian people could not understand that, could not accept that, because as far as they were concerned, they had a leader in Morris Bishop. And this hybrid, this proposal to go that route really was not something that would sit easily with the Grenadian people. So throughout the revolutionary experiences and events and so on, you come up against this whole business of reconciling or seeing how what is being done squares off with the culture, and the difficulty that they would have when that is not in fact in sync. So there were several instances where they could not do so. For example, they never did come to the people to say, listen, we want to build, we are building a socialist state. So you had the party engaging in its own ideological work and set apart from the cultural mindset, the backdrop of the people of Grenada, who were not in fact interested in things of that kind. Let me give you an example. So if under the ideology it talked about state ownership of lands and this and that and the other, well, the ordinary Grenadian by culture had become very accustomed to owning a small plot of land. So you would have a lot of difficulty understanding and accepting this notion of state control of lands and property and so on, because the cultural norm had been that we enjoyed ownership of our lands as individuals, as citizens of Grenada. So that is one of the things, generally speaking, that we need to explore very fully as we discuss the question of what happened during those 4.5 years. That is the military conduct, the operations of organs of the party and so on. All of these things could be examined in relation to the extent to which they were reconcilable or in sync with the culture of the Grenadian people.
That was stop it, George. That was Mr. William Joseph. Now, folks, I trust that you've already recognized that we're going to be running over time here. Usually wrap it up at noon, but I still have 2 more persons I want you to listen to. 1, Terence Marryshow, and 2, Mr. Ewart Layne. Let's start with Terence.
The People's Revolution of the 13th of March 1979, for me and for many of the people of my generation, was one of the greatest periods in our history. Many of my generation had opposed the rule of Gary, because by 1979 we had come to that conclusion that Eric Gary, as the leader, who was a champion of workers' rights and the people, had outlived his usefulness, and the time had come for a change. And so many of us were involved long before Comrade Bishop and the New Jewel movement was formed. We were involved in protests at the secondary school levels, aimed against opposing some of the policies of Gary. And so by the time 1979 came, with all of the ensuing bloody events like Bloody Sunday and Bloody Monday and all of the violence that was unleashed on the Grenadian people, we knew that the time had come for a change. And so we supported the revolution. The revolution did not fall from the sky. The revolution came about because of a number of objective and subjective conditions that came together at the right moment, that made it succeed in the very first days, when there was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of vulnerability. And if the Grenadian people did not want it to succeed, it easily could have failed in the very first days because they were opposed to it. But by that time, Grenadians were also ready for that change. Grenada had become a laughing stock on the international arena. Unemployment was high. The country was not moving forward. And so Grenadians welcomed it. The outpouring of support in the first days of the revolution is something I remember vividly, because I was right here, present. And even for me personally, to have been present when that historic act took place, to see the overthrow of the Gary government, was something that I supported. I have no regrets in saying that I supported that overthrow. But also, in the very first days of the revolution, when I incorporated myself into the ranks of the People's Revolutionary Army, newly formed army, I became the first commander of the first military camp in Grenada, which was Camp Butler, and it was situated at what was formerly the Knights Inn Hotel on Grand Anse Beach. And so I saw the outpouring of support and sentiment when simple, ordinary Grenadians, Rastas, all kinds of people, women, men, teenagers, all wanted to be part of that army. And I was personally involved in recruiting hundreds of them at the time as the commander of the first military camp. And there was no question that there was genuine support and jubilation in that period. Now, the revolution lasted for 4.5 years. And for me, again, the revolution was a unique experiment in governance and nation building, something that we had never seen before. The revolutionary government was an inexperienced government. None of them had actually been involved in running a government before. So it was a new period, a new era. Of course, the Constitution was suspended. We knew that things were not being run according to the Constitution, but by people's laws. And despite all of that, even though there was no election and whatever, but Bishop was upheld as the leader by acclaim. People supported Bishop because of his years of struggle under the Gary regime. He paid a heavy price for it during that time. Almost died at one time when he was attacked and beaten and had to be shipped out of Grenada to save his life. So he's somebody that Grenadians saw as being steeled and struggled, and he was a charismatic leader, a man of the people. He was able to reach the people, the ordinary people, in ways that other leaders, except Gary in his heyday, could not. And so Bishop immediately, upon assuming office as Prime Minister of this country, began to lead this country in a way that it was never led before. People from all walks of life admired the strength and the resilience of Bishop and the way he defended the cause that Grenadians had given themselves for, which was the People's Revolution. And so in 4.5 years, a number of impressive achievements were chalked up. We saw one of the first things, which was the Center for Popular Education, where the objective was to educate the Grenadian people so they could understand what was going on. Remember, we had a high level of illiteracy at the time. And so the idea of going back and educating people who never had that opportunity to get that education in their younger lives, or because they were deprived of it because they had to work so hard to keep their families together, was something that no other government had ever attempted, except in a region which was Cuba, to educate the people at home. The younger ones helped the older ones, and people began to understand what the revolution was about because they were not able to read and write, a lot of them who never had that opportunity before. We saw the National Insurance Scheme being developed. We saw the Marketing and National Importing Board being developed. We saw farmers becoming really happy farmers in the sense that now they had a market for their produce because the agro-industrial complex was developed where these farmers now are able to bring all of their raw material, mangoes, golden apples, guavas, whatever it is, and they were processed into high quality juices and jams and nectars which were exported outside and well received because people understood that Grenadians were taking a stand for the first time in their lives. Then we saw the development of a new grassroots democracy and the formation or formulation of a new constitution that was going to guide the people in the coming years. That grassroots democracy of organizations of women, youth, farmers, workers, of parish councils, zonal councils. All of these were designed to create a new kind of democracy, but uniquely Grenadian, because other countries had never attempted anything like that. and it was bearing fruit. Government ministers were called up to account for their stewardship. And people were transparent in this time because you were called upon in whatever parish or whatever meeting. It was to tell people what the revolution was doing and to listen to the guidance of the people themselves in the formulation of the budget and different things like that. So it was a new experiment. Notwithstanding this, we got a lot of assistance from Cuba. But one thing Grenada was able to demonstrate is that a poor, small, developing country which broke out of the geopolitical orbit of the United States and never received a single cent of help from the United States was still able to develop and develop more than it did in all of the years prior to that period. We were able, in a very short space of time, to build what was the biggest infrastructural project in the history of Grenada, which was the international airport, all of which are today serving the economy and serving the Grenadian people. CMNIS as well, still serving the Grenadian people. Market International Board, still serving the people. All of these were monuments to the revolution, if you will. Notwithstanding this, again, we had a group of people surrounding the leadership. A group who was incorporated into the revolution, into the ranks of the party, of the New Jewel movement, who were drunk on ideology. A group of people who all they were talking about was Marxism and Leninism at a time when that was not the most salient thing to be dealing with. But they were so drunk on ideology and this lust for power and this greed for power propelled them to take actions that were not warranted at that stage of the revolution, because the people understood what was going on and we were just moments away, just a mere 6 months away from the inauguration of that international airport, which will be the takeoff of the dream. But alas, that greed for power, that drunkenness on ideology, saw the revolution being sacrificed on the altar of ideology. During that time, a lot of mistakes were made as well, which admittedly cast a bad light on the revolution, which was the arbitrary detentions of people without trial. Of course, some were justified, some were not. And this is one of the stains of the revolution. And of course, one of the things that has been touted about for many years is the fact that the revolution did not hold free and fair elections in a timely fashion. But this was not the priority at the time. The country was moving forward. People were not thinking as much about holding elections as the people who were pressuring us from the outside. And despite the hostilities from the United States, despite them going out of their way to prevent funding from coming to Grenada, the other friends that we had around the world, that newly established friends, were able to help us to build that international airport, were help us to fund many of the projects of the revolution. And we saw a small country being an example and a beacon for many countries in the region to follow. When we look back on that period, we wonder with nostalgia what Grenada would have been like today if, instead of having that counter-revolution that took place in 1983, on October the 19th, when Bishop and others were brutally assassinated, what Grenada and indeed by extension the entire Caribbean would have been like, because this revolution transcended the borders of Grenada. It transcended this little 133 square miles to countries like Africa, where we were playing a role in the liberation of South Africa, which was under apartheid at the time. A country that a lot of people all over the globe, Africa, Asia, all over, were looking at with a lot of hope and encouragement that this little country, small as it is, in the backyard of the United States, was able to transform the lives of its people in such a short space of time. And so that is what the revolution is for me, the fact that really, despite the inexperience of the government, despite all of the pressures from the outside to invade the country and to turn back the revolution, that the people stood firm and they were willing and ready to give their lives in the defense of this. Voluntary work became the order of the day and saved the country millions and millions of dollars just because people were willing and ready to come out and sacrifice of their time and energy to build that revolution. Patriotism and unity was at a height that we had never seen before in this country because people were willing to give their lives in the defense of the revolution and of the country. Something that we see as virtually disappeared today. So despite all of the errors that were made in that period, we can safely say that it was an experiment that made a significant impact on the lives of the Grenadian people. Meaningful change took place in this country in a way that we never knew was possible. And one of the failures of government since the demise of the revolution is the fact that they have never embraced some of the positive programs of the revolution that were designed to transform the lives of people in a positive way. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that we have made in the past, that we did not learn those lessons properly. And instead of trying to destroy it, and as many people have done over the years, the rewriters of history, I call them, trying to make the revolution look as the darkest period in our history, I can safely say from my own experience, being one of the beneficiaries of a scholarship to go to Cuba when there was only one island school, and in 6 months we had over 32 scholarships being established. And over the years, over 300. That revolution was one of the greatest periods in the lives of the Grenadian people who showed what was possible in 4.5 short years.
All right. Dr. Terry Marryshow there, and let me try and get very quickly to the comments because we still have to hear from Mr. Ewart, Layne. Okay, hello. Sean, where is Sean? Sean has just disappeared. Okay, we'll try again. I'm not going to give up. Denis Charles says, was the revel all about Maurice Bishop? Would this Marryshow dude stop the old propaganda and speak to the reality of what life was like for ordinary people? How about the term heavy manners? Can he explain what that meant? This guy is in an alternate universe. He also says here, can you schedule a debate between Mr. Marryshow and myself as soon as possible? I'm eager to meet with him. Thanks. Shikari Courtney says, my grand-uncle, Winston Courtney, who was a senior police officer leading up to the revolution, lost his son, Andy, who, while traveling in a car with friends, was ambushed, shot, and killed at Plains, St. Patrick, by the PRA. Years after he became the commissioner of the prison and showed mercy to the killers, the Grenada 17, the killers of his son, who were serving time in prison. Margaret Soda says, she's responding to something Anthony DeRiggs said here, no one cares. Maurice Bishop gave the orders to assassinate them. I was told so by PRA. Cheney Joseph says, this has been the most compelling Dr. Marryshow has ever sounded to me since October 25th, 1983. Bernard Boren says, Terry, you just gave a very fair and balanced account of the Grenada Revolution. I fully endorse your comments. Ernesto, and folks, I'm reading these blind, so I really hope you took your time and put them together. Ernesto says, that's my opinion. The revolution came at a great time where people wanted a change and welcomed it because it was different, with people's participation and involvement. There were many great achievements, but the failure was the force was unexpected. And with the people who were experienced, manipulate the causes which led to so many of the abuses of victimization started. And the innocent, help me. Alana Morris Van Tassel says, what are people's takes on who were the masterminds of developing and escalating the communist socialist ideological takeover of the Revo. Bishop? Cord? I have heard and read theories that Cord was more to blame. Let me also say that my uncle-in-law, wow, this is a long one, that my, where is it? That my uncle-in-law lost his leg at Fort Rupert on the 19th. I was born in 1986 in New York. My father was out of Grenada since small and part. My father was out of Grenada since small and a part of the New Jewel chapter in Brooklyn. So we are very removed. My uncle was working for the Agricultural Department in liaison with the United Nations at the time and was actually on his way to meet with his UN counterpart on that fateful day. He saw children being shot, caught in crossfire at the fort. Terrible things. He spent over a year in a hospital in Puerto Rico. No contact with his children, who were my cousins, who were very small at the time. Their mother was studying at Tuskegee and had to fly down to rescue her kids. Forgive me, I forgot his actual title at the time. When I interviewed my uncle for over 2 hours last year about his experience in Grenada during the Revo, I heard, as we have heard today, a mix of great advancements in unemployment, education, and agricultural sector. Till this day, he feels proud of that time. He said it brought people together in a new way. People were helping each other in a way not seen before. So back to my question, are there individuals who are more responsible for the socialist takeover? I wish Grenada could take the good and learn from the bad. Kipling says, I am sorry, Terry did not speak for me, and many others. Shakari Courtney says, my uncle forgave them, but he hurt for many years over the loss of his son upon his death. The Revo had its positives, but these positives are overshadowed by the many negatives, such as the killing and torture of innocent people. Abraham Joseph says, self-help was a feature of the Gary government. The NGM, prior to the Revolutionary Citizen, let's see here. The NJM, prior to the Revolutionary Citizen, sorry folks, you're gonna have to wait. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time. I'm gonna take some time here. Break time.
Hey, what? I just came from the land and this sign here caught my eye. What's that sign about?
Someone must have asked Grenlec to move a pole. But you know, there's no space reserved on the side of the road for planting poles. So Grenlec has to get permission from landowners, and that can take a lot of time.
Oh. Grenlec asked me to help them contact my neighbor Ben about planting a pole on his land. But Ben passed away. His children own the land, but they all live abroad.
That's why Grenlec needs customers to inform them in writing at least 3 months in advance.
3 months? All that?
It seems like a lot, but think about the time it will take for Grenlec to find and get permission from all of Ben's children. And sometimes moving one pole requires you to move the pole before, the one after, plus the wires that support them on the ground. That means even more landowners to find and get permission from. Then Grenlec needs to schedule their teams and notify customers about any power outages.
Well, I need the pole on the farm moved, so I'm going to write Grenlec a letter now.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grandans, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's. Quality service. Affordable prices.
Okie dokie, folks. I'm going to turn now to my little WhatsApp here. Earlier on this morning, I was having a very brief conversation on WhatsApp with someone, and he posted this, and I thought this is worth sharing here. He said, I escaped totally unscathed. I observed a lot, but managed not to be hurt. I was lucky. Many were not. I am simply appalled that they are all forgotten and abandoned by civil society. He also goes on to describe the revolution as follows: an unprecedented opportunity to examine and dissect the problems of a vanguard Marxist-Leninist party attempting a non-capitalist direction of development towards socialism in the West Indian context. Okay, folks, one more piece, and this piece comes to you from somebody you all know, Mr. Ewart, Layne.
But the issue I've been asked to just comment on briefly is my experience of the Grenada Revolution, and I will maybe sum it up with a short poem that I wrote. The poem is called 1979, but you will see it summarizes what I consider to be my experience. It was a year of tumult and of bliss, of triumph and great festivity, but sadly, amidst all the dizziness, we sowed the seeds of 1983. That to me sums up my experience of the revolution. 1979 was a year of dizziness, it was a year of great passion, it was a year that tremendous energy was released in Grenada. But starting from 1979, I think we made certain mistakes that in a sense caught up with us by 1983. What were those mistakes? To me, fundamentally, there was an absence of checks and balances, and it really had to do with the way it started, I should say, with the way we took power, because we took power by unconstitutional means. And while it was possible, but we didn't have the wisdom and the experience at the time to recognize that it was fundamental to quickly restore all avenues of democratic discourse and democratic decision making, so as to remove any possibility of any tendency of undemocratic tendencies arising that could lead to frictions. Any human enterprise will inevitably have difficulties. What is important is that difficulties, conflicts, challenges. What is important is that there must be avenues for the peaceful resolution of these problems and these grievances. And I think we made a fundamental mistake in Grenada by not having that. So that will be one of my that's one of my mantra. That look, yes, it was a great enterprise. It was a great venture. It started off great. It ended tragically. So my second mantra is always this: that there's easily the tendency to want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I think there was tremendous progress, great experiences, great things to learn from the Grenada Revolution, and I think Grenada will be a poor place if we throw out everything. Yes, the mistakes should be avoided, the problems should be avoided, the abuses should never take place again, but there were important achievements, important examples that we really as a country, we need to embrace going forward. At the end of the day, the revolution and all that happened was a great Grenadian experience, that we need to embraces a Grenadian experience and learn from. Regarding the 1983 events, and in particular October 25th, I know many people regarded as a rescue mission. I can understand why they would take that point of view, but I don't share that point of view. My point of view is that it was an illegal invasion. It will remain that, and I know there's nothing to compare. That's one of the problems. It is not as if October 19th took place and there were Grenadians were trying to work it out for ourselves together with our Caribbean neighbors, and we were unable to work it out, and the violence continued, and in that context the Americans had to intervene. No, there was a traumatic, catastrophic event on October 19th, and from the standpoint of many people, including me, including others, one tragedy, one trauma, October 19th, another trauma was heaped upon us in a very short period of time. And that's why I can understand the attitude of Grenadians and so. But I really think as a people, ultimately we have to find a way to have a civilized discussion, a civilized debate about these issues and learn, because ultimately it was Grenadian actors, whatever the events, it was really Grenadian actors, which is part of our Grenadian experience that we should go forward with. So I will summarize, as I said, tumult, blissful from 79, that ran through the period, but at the same time, the seeds that led to tragedy in 83, we sowed them in 1979 itself, and increasingly they grew, and in a sense they caught up with us by 1983. That will be my experience, but my second mantra is do not throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Okie doke. Wow, wow, wow. Just down to crunch time, folks. It's 22 minutes after 12. I was hoping we could get through this by noon, but anyhow, it's 22 minutes after 12. And I'm prepared to take a couple of calls. So if, believe me, make it brief. Make it brief or, okay? 415-0631. And I await your calls.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply departments and the Food Fair supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Alrighty, folks. Obviously, you've said everything you had to say in social media this morning. And I'm sorry, but I was not able to get to every comment. I'm going to try and sneak some more in here just before I pull the curtain down. Wayne Francis is asking the question, was there anything good, in your opinion, that came from the revolution, apart from your distorted vision? Just asking. Margaret Soda says, a Grenadian experience that you and your cronies enjoyed. These comments came in while Mr. Layne was speaking. Abraham Joseph says, that should read, The NJM, prior to the Revo, criticized it vehemently, but after the Revo, vociferously embraced it. What hypocrisy. Denis Charles says, Ewart, Layne, I'm ready to meet with you anytime. And finally, Antiarello says, thank you, George. Everyone has their story of what the revolution meant to them. Thank you for opening the show for us to hear. Mandu Seal says, George, we need a panel discussion with all these. This is just the beginning on the truth and reconciliation. Mandu, my studio too small. Yeah. I'm hoping that one day, we could arrange to do something down at somewhere like the Trade Center. Hey, maybe. Ernesto says, after listening to all the interviews, they were not interviews, they were just statements. I repeat, I didn't question anybody. He says, after listening to all the interviews, one word to summarize it. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. We all need. Margaret Soda says, Wayne Francis, his experience with the so-called revolution was different. You must have had free PRA and free education, and I understand you are grateful. Some got imprisoned, or worse. So you benefited all right. Randall Robinson says, a number of blind men trying to describe an elephant. We need a serious Truth and Reconciliation Commission to truly describe this beast. Randall, 36 years after the revolution ended, we still need? Do we have to wait another 36 before we do? Just asking. Claude Putnam says, George, I was one of the 4 people who took Morris from the room where they kept him. George, going up to where they keep him, it was very scary. Why? Because there were soldiers on the top side of the road, hiding in the bush. And as we approached where they kept Morris, reaching the gate, the armed car, I guess that's what he's trying to say, the armed car fired its gun on Big Tree which had the people scared and falling down on each other. Wayne Francis says, George, great piece of work. It really helped to hear the different opinions and experience of some brave people. Abraham Joseph says, people like you at Layne must come out and state the truth about what happened during that period. Folks, we've been going for 3.5 hours. Let's wrap it up with a final word from the Holy Scriptures. Philippians chapter 2, verses 14 and 15. Do everything without grumbling, so that you may become blameless and pure, children of God without fault in a warped and crooked generation. Then you will shine among them like stars in the sky, as you hold your head firmly, as you hold firmly to the word of life. Kipling says, I have forgiven everyone because I have learned how deceitful men can be. And for that, I am grateful. From the bottom of my heart, I forgive everyone. So nice to hear forgiveness being called for at the end of this program. Pilgrims, on that note, I'm hungry. Georgie Porgy's going to go try and dig up some leftovers right now. And I sincerely thank you all who took the time to comment this morning, who took the time to watch this and listen. I hope you have at least a slightly better understanding of the events which occurred between 1979 and 1983. Beverly Steele says, thank you for this program, George. I hope it will signal the beginning of honest and complete sharing. Beverly, let's pray, girl. Let's pray, please. I hope that happens. I hope your dream comes true. On that note, so long.